Today I'm going to be doing a much needed, much longed for, much sought after upgrade to my DeWalt 13-inch benchtop thickness planer. I have been looking for a helical HUD for a long time. I've had it in my cart at mywoodcutters.com a bunch of times. I've looked at the Amazon ones. Busy Bee here has them, and I just couldn't find something that I was comfortable with spending the money on and the quality. The other day, the folks at FindBuyTools reached out and asked if I wanted to try theirs, and I have to say the timing on this was impeccable. Like I mentioned, been longing for one of these for a long time. I was just about to pull the trigger. So they sent one over to try out, test out, share my thoughts with you guys. I don't get paid for this video. They don't get to see it before you do. So this is just my thoughts on the installation, how it works, how I like it, and what I think. So yeah, watch along. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I hope you enjoy.
It took about 4 or 5 days for me to receive the package from FindBuyTools. It shipped directly from China to my house, and given that it was over the holidays, I was pretty impressed with the shipping. Everything comes super well packaged. The box is inside a box. There's lots of good solid foam in there. All the inserts are in their own little containers. I was pretty impressed with the instructions. There's good pictures of every step along the way. They include 2 reasonable quality Torx and Allen key wrenches. And then underneath that top layer here, you have the actual cutter head, which is well greased and wrapped up in some saran wrap. No issues at all with the packaging. Everything came perfect, no damage. So that was good to see. They include 6 packs of 10 of these carbide inserts. Each one of them is individually spaced in these nice little containers. The cutter head takes 54 of them, so you get a few spares, which is nice. I'm not going to lie, one of the reasons why I was a bit reluctant to get one of these heads was the amount of work I perceived there to be to install it. The way FindBuyTools builds the instructions, they divide it into the left side, the right side, and the top of the machine. The first steps here, you just remove the top cover and then you remove the little dust guard blower thing to expose the factory cutter head. Getting into the meat of it, you remove the transmission cover with the factory Torx driver. There's 3 bolts and it just pops out of place. Next up is where I'm pretty proud of myself. I had these snap ring pliers that I've actually probably never used sitting in my toolbox, so I just kind of dug them out, wiped the dust off. And they're truly a necessity here to get these snap rings off of all of these drivers. I think there's 6 in total. You'll see that my pride here is quickly wiped away. But yeah, you just pull off the 2 for these chain retainer bolt thingies and slide the chain out of the way. Next up, there's 3 long bolts that hold the transmission into place. These again just are removed with the factory Torx driver. Nothing crazy here, just twist them out. With that, you just slide the transmission kind of gently out of the way. You don't need to do this next step. They say to do it in the instructions. I've seen some people who just pull the transmission out and leave it kind of dangling in place. But there's a little retaining bolt on the inside that you just remove with the Torx driver, and that is used to tie the transmission into the transmission speed setting changer. It's really easy just to slide it off and then you can move the transmission out of the way, so I would recommend doing that. Next up, you have to remove this helical gear. There's a 7mm nut welded onto the end of it, so I just took this piece of wood and jammed it into the cutter head so that it wouldn't spin. Used a 7mm wrench and popped it loose. If you had removed the blades, you could maybe do this without, but I don't know. It's just pretty easy to wedge a piece of wood in there, and it doesn't take much force to get the bolt off. And this is where things got a little spicy for me. I probably fought with this stupid spring clip for 30-40 minutes, I don't know. I couldn't get the ends of my snap ring pliers to stay in the holes, and every time I squeezed it hard enough, it just twisted. So I did the only logical thing, got frustrated, threw them in the trash, went to the store, picked up a much better set here, drove home, and got to business. Honestly, this whole trip to the store and everything took less time than I spent futzing around with it. So yeah, my advice would be just use good snap ring pliers. It's worth it. These things here, as you can see, worked perfectly. It took about 10 seconds to pull off this snap ring, and that was that. So yeah, just, good tools are good tools. I didn't do any research on these pliers. I just bought them, and they're just much better than what I had. Success. With that out of the way, it's time to rotate the machine to the other side. Use the factory supplied Torx screwdriver again to just remove the height adjustment wheel, and then use it to remove these 4 Torx bolts that hold the drive side cover in place. These gears are held on with a couple of Allen keys. I found it a little bit tricky, so I just put one Allen wrench into both of the bolts, and that allowed me to break the threads and to snap it loose. Then just slide it off and out of the way. There's a Phillips screw that holds the chain tensioner in place. Just remove that out of the way and be mindful of the little spring that's dangling there. The next step is to remove the drive belt. You just got to slowly work this over to the side. I think they recommend to wear gloves. You can see here I trapped my finger, but just work slowly, twist it out of the way, and that should be that. I again employed my handy piece of wood here and a 15/16 socket to break the threads loose on the nut that holds the pulley in place. I tried to use a screwdriver to pry this loose, but just grab onto it securely and give it a little wiggle. Make sure you don't lose the little metal key that holds everything into alignment here. That's critical. I got my fancy new snap ring pliers. Let's see if they work just as well this time. There's a small little spacer here behind the nut, so just move that out of the way. And then yeah, let's dig into this snap ring and see what happens. I'm going to leave this playing real time so you can see just how much faster it is with a decent tool versus me struggling with some cheap pliers that just don't work. And voila, success. Now I'm removing the blades from the factory head assembly. I'm not sure if this was supposed to be done earlier and I just missed it, or if I'm just doing it now. To be honest, I did try to push it through with the blades on and it just doesn't fit through the hole, so make sure you remove the blades. I guess in hindsight I'd recommend doing it at one of the first steps when you pull the cover off, because then they're just out of the way, but no harm, no foul. Here I am removing them. There's lots of bolts, but just get her done. With that out of the way, I took a scrap of wood and I just gently tapped on the cutter head until the bearings popped out of their races, and I was able to slide the factory cutter head assembly out. And with that, it's time to reverse the process. One little thing with the instructions, and this is more of a me thing than anything else, is they don't include the steps to reassemble it. They just kind of say do everything in reverse. I do think for most people that would work fine. I don't know if I'm a little dyslexic or what, but I kind of, just struggled a bit with moving backwards through the steps. But I just took my time, read through each step again, and that was that. It was pretty simple to slide it into place. I'm not going to show you every step here on reassembling it because, like I said, it is just the same steps in reverse. So I guess you could just watch this video backwards. But it's pretty straightforward. Everything went back into place. And now it's time to install all the cutter heads. I know with some of the heads you buy, like the Bird Helical, they come with the cutter heads installed and you have to remove them. So this was nice to not have to do that. As I mentioned, there's 54 cutter heads, so I think it's 4 rows of 14. I went through and did a full row, just kind of loosely attached them, and then I went back with a torque wrench and torqued them all down to 6 Newton meters. I had no problems with them aligning. They just kind of seated into the spots correctly and everything worked well. Just took my time and went through each one. With all of those installed, I reinstalled the little dust blower head cover thingy here with the 3 red bolts, and I put the top back on, and it was time for our maiden cut.
I'm not going to lie, it's a little bit nerve-wracking firing it up after, completely taking it apart. It's a tool that has, I guess now 54 sharp knives rotating at a fairly high speed. So I found it a little unnerving to turn it on. But it went off without a hitch. The first thing I noticed, obviously, was the difference in pitch and noise. I didn't do sound recordings before and after. There's lots of other videos that have done this with this head and other heads. I think consensus is around a 10 decibel drop. That might not seem like a lot, but 3 decibels is a doubling of power. So from that perspective, it is fairly significant, and it is a noticeable difference. Out there, this has definitely gone from being the loudest tool in my shop to being the loudest tool in my shop, but slightly more comfortable. As I ran the first few boards through, I did notice a little bit of scalloping on a piece of maple here. I think that can be normal for a helical head. I get it occasionally on my jointer, so I'm not too concerned about it. After running more wood through, I think I ran about 100 board feet through or so in the first day here. Noticed no more of that. I mostly ran 8/4 hard maple and 8/4 walnut, and no issues. It cut through everything without a problem. Dust collection seemed the same as with the straight knives. I'm really excited to see how this works on some curly maple and some of the stuff that I've had a harder time cutting with the straight blades where it would take out big chunks. I'm hoping that this is better. Again, based on the experience with my jointer, I'm assuming it will be. But I'll report back in the future and let you know how it's all going. So in closing thoughts here, I'll say that this has been a really pleasant experience from the packaging to the build quality. It seems on par with the quality of the DeWalt head, the bearings, the overall weight of it. It all seems really good. The knives came well packaged and no issues, no nicks or marks or anything. Everything looked fantastic. The quality of the instructions was pretty solid, better than I expected with the pictures and everything. It worked really well. I know that they actually published a video on how to install it. I intentionally did not watch that. I'll go and watch it after just to see if I made any catastrophic mistakes. I wanted to kind of experience this for myself, going through the instructions they ship with it, and it was straightforward. I do wish, like I had mentioned, that they provided the steps in reverse order to put it back together, but I figured it out. I think it's just fine. So yeah, my overall opinion in this is I enjoy it. I think it's good. I think I'm going to continue to enjoy it. I would highly recommend this based on my initial few days with it to anybody who's looking to get a helical head for the DeWalt planer, or probably any tool. I imagine they're the same, just in different sizes. So FindBuyTools, I would say, yep, I would definitely recommend their product based on my first few days and first few 100 board feet of using it. I have a link in the description to what they sent me. It's not an affiliate link. Take a look at whatever if you want. I think it's on sale now. I don't know what their sales process works, how long the sale is for, but yeah, just want to say thanks again to FindBuyTools for shipping this to me, and thank you all for watching. Have a great day.